3D Lab guest sessions are online technical talks or collaborative workshops with external practitioners or our in-house technical team. These sessions are hosted by the 3D Lab based at Wimbledon College of Arts, UAL. We seek conversations that reflect the richness of thinking through making, technical research and development, and practical learning and teaching. We aim to explore the making literacies that underpin making practice, and in doing so develop a learning resource within the context of performance and beyond. For previous sessions and to join our mailing list, please visit wca3dlab.myblog.arts.ac.uk. Welcome to 3D Lab guest sessions. We actually started these back in 2019. Workshops and making spaces are places of research. They're really rich spaces that we can talk about making as a thinking tool. We really wanted to create these spaces where actually we can welcome people in and open it up a little bit. Will Waterhouse actually kicked off our very first lab session back in 2019 in the autumn as part of his show Epic Win. At this point, I just want to say big thanks to Claire Mitten, the gallery coordinator of Wimbledon Space, for just being a real champion of the 3D Lab guest sessions and this kind of space of talking about making as a thinking tool and the technical research behind what we do day to day in the workshops. And we're actually working together to kind of develop a bit of a further partnership, really, because the gallery and the workshop spaces are both sites of making and research in their own ways. And I think we both think that there's some really lovely crossovers there. And also, Will worked quite closely with Claire in Epic Win as well. It's just a real pleasure that I get to spend a bit of time talking to Will Waterhouse. He is a pioneer, just creative genius, and I was actually talking to him a couple of weeks ago about teaching, because he's an educator as well. He's a technician that works alongside us at Wimbledon. Sorry, Will, if I'm paraphrasing, but he was like, I want to show people the magic, but I also want to show them what's up my sleeve, you know, like how the magic was made. And there's this wonderful generosity of Will's approach to making, that he really wants people to understand it, to fall in love with materials and to understand the logic behind them, and the systems of thinking. And he's got this wonderful way of just breaking down these quite complex principles and underlying making literacies that we've come to call them, these kind of principles, or this tacit knowledge that we can't quite sometimes pin down or articulate. So these making literacies of movement, of mechanics, and he has this wonderful way of just breaking it all down quite simply and using play as a phenomenal, significant tool in order to do so. So as someone who struggles to play at the best of times, Will has really helped me to see the seriousness of play and the importance of it in innovation and in working in the workshop. Will is actually represented as a maker on the New Craftsman page, so do look him up there. He was actually featured in their Reason for Being campaign in the first lockdown. Very much worth a watch, because it's an insight, a very simple, quick, beautiful insight into how making is integrated in Will's whole life. Do follow him on Instagram. His handle is @WaterhouseWilliam. And his website is similar. It's www.waterhousewilliam.com. And I guess that leads us to talk about Epic Win. So this is an opportunity for Will to kind of reflect a year and a bit after the show, and also, you know, pick up on some of the themes that have kind of persisted since then. So Will, I hope that's okay. I'll hand over to you.
Thanks, Ash. That was awkward to hear. I don't know why it's hard to hear compliments, but thank you. Yeah, so thanks for that lovely introduction. And I'm in my workshop at the minute, and it's going to be, well, it's been really valuable collating all the imagery and videos from the show, which Epic Win, which, as you've said, at the Wimbledon Space. So I'm going to jump straight in. I'm going to talk a little bit about, very briefly, just about other projects that I've done that seem to have some relevance, and then I'm going to stream through, bombard you with a load of images and videos. So yeah, I'm a maker. Never know whether I'm a designer, an artist, an educator. You know, I think you have to do a lot of things in this world. I'm going to share my screen and show you some of my previous projects before I jump straight into Epic Win. I've just done the high bit, so I want to just show you a few previous works just to give you a grounding of kind of where I was coming from. So this is a solenoid drawing. So I wanted to show this just because in preparing for this show, I realized kind of some of the things that really make me tick. And what I realized was I make a lot of machines. It might have been obvious to people around me, but I kind of contextualized everything. And so these are some of the drawings that come from that machine. Now this is a very early piece, which again is a machine that makes stuff. So this was a spring machine. This is actually my degree show, which I've not shown since my degree show. But it's a machine that makes springs, and it was that joy of creating something. And also, I think it was the handing over that job of creation to a machine or an object. And there's a bit more. And there's so much potential for learning in a project where you've got something to move. You've got to make something move. So you know that the kind of just taking away that magic of electricity and understanding it. And there we go. And there is some of the spoil from that spring machine. This is a piece of a kinetic sculpture, and I wanted to show this as because what was the parallel here? I found that it's like working in units. So this little unit that I was creating, once I've managed to crack how to make something like a language, find a language. Okay, so here's a thing that spins. Then that's just a language to then build on. So you can multiply those. You find different forms, find different context, and suddenly kind of broken into another language. It's like a yeah, something to play with and tinker with. So that I won't show all of it. And then this is another. This is where it starts actually with a fridge compressor. So it's how much energy can I get out of that fridge compressor? And just another example, the recent example over lockdown. What can you do in lockdown? Well, I made kind of toys. Are they toys? They're toys until they become a sculpture or an artwork. And I just found I found just that creating, again, you create one, it's a language, and then you start multiplying it, and you can apply it. Same again here, working on one thing, which then you can multiply and expand. So just wait until we get an overview of this one. There we go. That's standing free there. So that was all I wanted to show you, just to give you a little bit of context. So Epic Win. I mean, this why not treat this a little bit like a private view, online private view. So this was the Epic Win private view Instagram post back in November, October. When was it? At the end of 2019. Right. So this, I was talking about building a language, finding a material, finding a process, making something work. And so this is kind of where Epic Win started. I was with Sarah in the workshop on a down day, and we were exploring how actually Sarah had an idea, and I wanted to facilitate that idea. So rather than letting her get away with it just being words, and I think she would have been happy for that. I kind of, grabbed some materials and leant a board up against the wall, and we started exploring shapes and drawing with these shapes. Now, as we were doing this, I just found some beauty in it, and I just took the initiative to film it here and there, and I was very excited because I had a lovely time, and I'd hoped the magic was caught. So I ran home and edited together this little video, and this was probably 2018 or 17, I'm not sure, but this is only a couple of minutes long, so I'm just going to run it, and we can watch Drawing with Sarah. So that's Drawing with Sarah. So when I was watching that again, I was just thinking about that difference between a studio and a workshop, and what lovely things can happen when those things meet. And I think that's something we recognise as techs at Wimbledon, and something we really want to kind of find that middle ground. That's what I was thinking when I was watching that. Also, like I wanted to show you a little bit of my work before this, because it occurred to me how technical I can get and how I pursue trying to control a material and things like that. And also I am a perfectionist at heart, and often trying to let go of that, or just kind of understand that, not let it hinder me. So I'm always looking for a language that's a bit freer, but also that fulfills me. So I was really excited about these shapes, because suddenly I've got a language where I can create something in a couple of minutes, or you know, or an hour, rather than slaving over a machine or something to get that satisfaction much further down the line. So now I just had a box of shapes, a box of MDF shapes, painted black as a material, which was so very liberating. And so I took that video, and I think, I don't know what else it might have been, to Claire and the gallery, and on an open submission, and she gave me a slot in the gallery, which I was very grateful for. And I started making shapes. Actually, I actually proposed more about the interaction with people. So as I was going to be in my proposal, I was planning play dates. Called them, not to be, you know, deliberately trying not to be highbrow or anything like that. They're play dates, basically, where I'd go around the campus, and we would create shapes in different areas of the college with different staff members and students. And whilst I was doing that, planning that, I took to Instagram, and I started building one a day. I set myself a challenge, one a day, and uploading these little motifs, as you might want to call them, imagery. And as I was doing that, as I was going through, you always need input for output. So I was needing more. Well, you need inspiration, which often these sketches came about just through playing. I didn't know what they were going to be, and you could only know by being there with the materials. So I started, you know, kind of opening up the remit, opening doors, letting myself use different techniques. So this is just pulling a pin out from a shape. So you've got this, you can have a different static composition then. You've got this ball that is unperturbed by gravity, and down it slides. Again, a pin in a board. A rug. So going back to the drawing with Sarah, you can see some of these kind of, how do you interact with these shapes. And I was playing around with the double rug, pulling away either side. This one ended up looking a little bit like a figure. It's funny trying to find what's acceptable and what's not, what's within your remit. And I was always very aware when something becomes figurative. I think it's, you know, quite often the most obvious, or maybe that's not true, but it comes to mind. But also in the light of play, I also tried not to restrict myself and just follow a gut instinct. If it fits, then it fits. I quite like the way that one took symmetry. It's symmetrical. The symmetry breaks, and then at the end it finds a new symmetry. So little joys like that can come out, and you can relax for the day. Then you've achieved something. That's how I felt about it. Now, it's hands. So bringing hands into the work. Now, something about the body being present in these. I mean, as the person who made them, sometimes maybe you don't know them the best, and maybe they are like a little graphic-y. They have a very graphic quality, and there's something that kind of breaks that. This hand coming in, and also that they exist with people. And I think I also had in mind that the play dates. I don't know. There's just something. I got a little bit obsessed at one point. And on one of the documentaries, I hear myself saying, "Can we do that again? But can you put your hands in it?" Which, on reflection, I think I just got into it a bit much. So that was actually from one of the play dates. Well, actually, I don't want to show that one. Oh, look, I've given away some of the magic. That's my that's a later slide, that one. So there you go, the play dates. So I went around the college, and I dragged the board up to the library. The library were very good at facilitating, like everybody is. People want things to happen. And so we dragged up the board and the shapes, and Paul, who works in the library, agreed to join in. So I took an excerpt from the, I'd call it the documentation of the event. This isn't very long. There you go, just over a minute. Well, first of all, I got a little bit perturbed by trying to add subtitles because you couldn't hear what was going on, and as I was adding them, I couldn't get them to go straight. So I had a little bit of a play around with them. So let's watch this one.
I'd love to share that as Paul Bloom reenacts losing his hair at the age of 20. The mission of the victim.
So that was Paul there. Thank you, Paul. Yeah, that became quite a small bit of the exhibition in the end, which I'll expand on. So cataloguing them. So now kind of accumulating this imagery. Next, yeah. So it was a case of what are these now? How do they exist? Do they exist on the Instagram page? Do they exist in an exhibition that happened once? How do I refer to them? And that was actually if I wanted to move on to here was a lesson I found might have value to others as well, or maybe everybody else knows it, it's just me who didn't. But giving things names is so important. It allows you to talk about them. So I was searching for a name because I kept on jumbling my words when trying to describe these things. And you've got Werner Heisenberg, who's a physicist and pioneer of quantum mechanics. So, you know, a small nod, but to take the, you know, the acknowledgement of like gravity in these gravity sketches, which, you know, was one of the words that would pop out of mouth. They now became vernograms, which just seemed to work somehow. So I had a name now for all these little sketches, which are vernograms. So I need to expand my I need to keep creating. Now I keep on running out of options, seemingly. So it's a constant kind of like search for inspiration, and I was finding this limitation. I couldn't get, other than a pin in the back of the board, I couldn't get my shapes to stay. I couldn't build the compositions I wanted to. All the compositions needed legs that meet the ground. So I came up with this concept. I'm sure it exists somewhere else. It's a fixed camera in this light box that pivots, and I called it a cradle. And now I can suddenly display my shapes wherever I want. Not only that, but I am in control of how they fall just by tilting it like so. So all of a sudden I can create new imagery. So I just remember being, you know, there's moments in your practice and in your life where you just kind of you know, rush down to the studio because you want to draw another picture. And it would just open up the door to all these new iterations, new vernograms, if you like. That transformation. So also, you can see here, I'm putting pins in the board again. So these can go, I'm creating hinges. And I'm still uploading these one a day to Instagram, which is a wonderful platform if you've got a purpose for it. Shouldn't. So you can hear in the background there. This one was. So I'm still making them as the show continues. So you can hear the background, the noises of the exhibition in the back bit here. Because I wanted the show to be active. I wanted it to be alive. It wasn't something that I put up and then you sit back and say, "Ah, that was good." It had kind of it was alive. It was another machine or another event. There was something about old computer games, that one. So yeah, talking about how do you open doors to new ideas as an artist? What can you do? What can't you do? Limitations are great. So, you know, limiting your palette, that's often spoken about, isn't it? So my palette was black shapes on a white board. But you're always looking for trying to crack that language, kind of expand it or frack it, as I sometimes say. And that happens by kind of external forces. So this is me drawing with my daughter, and she starts piling up the shapes on the shapes, and my initial thought is, no, that's not the rules. But of course, I don't want to be that father. I'm not that kind of father. It's whatever goes if she's drawing, and just like, oh, okay, yeah. So that now is an option because I was shown it, or I found it in the right way. I don't know if anyone agrees with what I'm saying, but that's something I strongly feel. It's got to come from somewhere, you know. So and that's in the exhibition, this little vernogram. So then, you know, I could start playing with a different technique now. I mean, that just looks like a poo, doesn't it, that one? So that's onto the balance. That's again another option, another way. I think I was watching a student play with the cradle and put them on their side, and they rolled away. And this very short one, you know, I put this in because sometimes you thought they failed, but you know, the joy of editing, and it might just be that the duration was long, and I'd often sit there kind of pulling the duration, how much space at the beginning of the, if it's about the composition, you might leave the unaffected by gravity composition sitting, and then it falls. So there's all sorts of things that you can pick out of a subject with editing, and they become very rhythmic. And there was a connection to music that I liked about this series of work. There's something, there's a connection, joyful. It's got I mean, this when you loop them, they get that rhythm as well. So sound, there you go. I was about to talk about it. So yeah, not a lot to say really, other than I found that the shapes had different tones. It's like creating a little glockenspiel. And the same motif of these drumsticks. And then so I moved on. Maybe this was after the show, I think. So again, I just kind of loosened or changed the cradle to then sit on a single point. So it didn't swing on a hinge anymore. It was like a big spinning top, and that allowed me. And in fact, this was around about this time last year. So this is kind of like COVID. You know, it's in everyone's mind, isn't it? So I feel like it's kind of creating these little viruses, really. And again, playing with kind of wire and picking the right kind of wire, the right thickness of wire, so that it behaved in the right way. And look, and getting far more complicated now. And I don't know whether it's a vernogram anymore. I don't know if I kind of exhausted that, or just sometimes you just need a break. You need to fill your head with new ideas or just kind of new experiences, and come back and you'll draw different shapes, different things. And this is very much a virus. So it's like, that was like a final little flurry before. I mean, this thing takes up a lot of room in my studio. So if I had a bigger studio, it'd be up all the time, and I'd maybe just pop down on the odd day and you know, have some energy for it and draw some more. You kind of see down the left there, you can see like a glimpse of the floor. You know, I kind of wanted that perfection, but forgave it when it wasn't, because I don't know, something kind of something freer. It's like a glimpse behind the curtain, you know. So I put this one in, which I just edited the other day, to kind of, what are these, you know, how do they exist? I go back to that question, and they kind of exist together, en masse, and the show was that, and ended up being more about these shapes than the documentaries, although the people were still there because I invited the people into the space. I wouldn't necessarily have talked about this here, but I put it here. And I wanted to talk about kind of where these vernograms exist and why they exist. And of course, you know, the show is called Epic Win, which is that's a kind of a term of these kind of epic win and epic fails of kind of small snippets of social media footage all put together to create this mesmerizing thing that kind of holds you and feeds you something. You've got this whole language of like the boomerang kind of that kind of the app that kind of just circulates your imagery, little gifs, short attention span, all these the realm these little things exist in, yet they're very real. They're not like these graphics here, which are like I consider these graphics. I'm sorry to the artist, because I'm sure they're artworks, you know, they may well be, but there's something for me. They exist in the same kind of breath, but they're very different. They don't have that. These don't have a soul, as I see it. There's another one. These graphics and CAD programs. I don't know. Someone can talk to me about these.
Yeah, that's probably a good space to stop, actually, in the sense of thinking about how almost the social aspect of it becomes another source of material, and the work continues in a different space, I guess. Well, is that okay if we open up?
Yeah.
Just to say, the Instagram that Will referenced there was Lucas Zanotto, and it's very hypnotic Instagram to follow. So do have a look at that. Will, I really liked your line that you said, you know, talking about the edge of the frame, that it's a glimpse behind the curtain, and I think you're a real master of that, of just, you know, showing the activity, but then also showing the systems behind that. And I guess it's just lovely to kind of track Epic Win by hearing you talk about it and the language you use about it, like working from the materials developing a sort of language, and then with a language and linguistics in any shape or form becomes a logic and a way and a system and a framework to use that, and then we move on to that as to how we subvert the language and the system. So I just really like that kind of link, but I just wrote materials, language, logic, and then systems, and this kind of feedback loop behind them. And we've been working with our theatre designers, costume designers, mostly with first years, in getting them to think whilst we're away from the workshop spaces, getting to integrate design with the making process. And I think there's something that, like in Epic Win, which you say, you know, it's actually quite hard to articulate the stuff that's all the kind of discoveries that were made during that session. But there's something about a felt sense of actually there's knowledge that occurs as you're making, that actually if we were to design, or, you know, if you were to design separate to the making, it would be a completely different process, and you perhaps wouldn't come across. I don't, you know, I'm just talking aloud, but I guess I wondered if you could maybe talk a little bit about how, yeah, your felt sense, which is amazing in the sense of how you just, you know, you have all these multiple feelers on how you understand material through doing. Could you speak into that a little bit?
I mean, sketching with what's around you, like you just don't know until it's in your hand. And if you're going to design something or make something, you need that material there. I mean, I've also done a fair bit of designing for myself and for others, and that sense of that material sense isn't even substituting a lump of metal for a cardboard tube painted black. You read it differently. You know, when you really get into kind of materials. So just surround yourself, you know, by materials. And you know, this whole project started with kind of drawing with materials. It's about making things happen quick as well. You know, a lot of like students might have conversations sometimes, and they hang on a technology to kind of, you know, once I draw this in CAD, I'll understand it. And so, yeah, that's a really helpful tool. But alongside taking those materials, holding them, being with them, yeah, you learn something. Maybe looking for shortcuts. I think it's all about shortcuts, isn't it? How to understand it quick.
Yeah, and also how I just finished reading Creativity Inc., the kind of memoir of Ed Catmull, the president of Pixar, and he reflects about his team and how they different approaches to making the Pixar films. But he we were chatting about it in a recent session with our theatre designers last term, actually, and we picked up on the quote of go wrong quick. Like that was one of the mentalities, that actually it's okay to fail, you know. And actually when you showed that like clip of the almost, it reminded me of like a dinosaur back with the kind of the triangular plates like flipping, and the one takes a little bit longer to flip down. And you mentioned something about you know, you showed that in terms of thinking about maybe sometimes things think like you failed or something didn't quite go right. But I think Epic Win just, I felt like there was almost no failure, because in a way, like every time there was like a new discovery, and if things didn't fall the way you thought they would fall, it created new knowledge.
Yeah, and also working, like making I feel like there's a backbone to the project, and all these little vernograms kind of sat either side of that kind of backbone, and so they couldn't go wrong together. They only kind of like enriched it, and it was to my discretion what didn't did fit, and I decided a lot more would fit than didn't. It's more fun that way.
Claire has just said in the chat, I don't know, Claire, do you want to put your mic on and join us? Claire Mitten.
Sure. Hello.
Hey, I
Hey,
just saw your.
Hiya, I will. It's nice to see your familiar faces. I miss you all.
Yes.
I just saw your comment, Claire, and I just wondered if you wanted to come in on that.
Yeah, it was just seeing you, Will, like talking at various points. I think the footage you had, like right back with Sarah, and then, you know, how parts of hands come in and poke and reveal sort of what's happening, and then that bit of floor. It sort of reminded me of a discussion I think we had, sort of thinking about your show, and you were wondering what to put in and what to keep out, and how to present these kind of little video drawings that you've made, and whether revealing how they were made would give too much away and destroy the sort of magic of them.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, you need to be really careful, but actually, there's something really interesting that's added without taking away that magic, and I'm not quite sure how you pulled that off.
Yeah, you're right. I remember that, and I forgot that feeling actually, Claire. So thank you. I remember that kind of and there's something I think I sit really uneasy with about illusion.
Yeah.
And again, like you were saying, Ash, it's like I don't want to trick. But at the same time, I remember the feeling. People were like really enjoying these little sketches. And I was like, oh, that's great. You know, everyone wants to, people are enjoying it. And then I was like, what if they find out how they're made? They just go, oh, this kind of, but I didn't want to deceive. Yeah.
I think there was something, I think, Ash, you referred to it about the kind of social aspect to the way you work, Will, and you could see it with Sarah, with Paul in the library, and then at the private view I remember it being like such a buzzy event with everybody sort of interacting with the artworks, with you, it was a really joyful event.
Yeah, I mean, I did have a video of kind of, because actually I'm aware I didn't even show a video of the actual show in the end. But it is about. I know it was part of the brief, for the show was to have some involvement. But for me, it's always about that. The objects are about when they meet the spectator, and I want some valuable interaction between that object and the maybe spectator isn't the right word, some interaction, but some meaningful in interaction. So I got the school to come by, and you got Stacey Canteen, who's great, and Anne, and I really tried to pull in everybody to this. I saw it as kind of like potential social lubricant, which I really wanted it to be.
It brings back to what you were saying about the life of it's almost the life of things, keeping things alive, and actually it's no coincidence that we're based at Wimbledon College of Art, now becoming more performance based or focused and immersive performance school. And I think it touches upon what a previous session that we had with Forster and Hayes in talking about the performativity of material, and having, like you say, Will, having access to material to then start to play with and have a tool, and almost using materials as communication in a way, or some sense of getting out, using the body but getting out of the body, as it were, and being in some sort of relationship with the other.
And finding excuses for that,
Yes. Thanks, Claire. That's really helpful to come in. I really liked your comment in the sense of saying, when you were saying Will wasn't sure how to reveal the way the drawings were being made. but instead there's a mysterious tension of knowing but not knowing, and the desire to repeat and repeat again. And I think there's something akin there in terms of designing for performance as well, really. Like, you know, there's a sense of we can design to a point, but we also need to take into account what happens in the event per se. Alistair says, Vernograms seem like a battle with control, taking control away with a formula and then fighting to get it back in some senses, to understand it and then to maybe exploit it, or maybe not exploit, though exploit doesn't seem like a positive word at all, but in the sense of, I guess it comes back to what you're saying, to build, to, you know, you create a language and then you use it, you build on that and you learn. What do you think about that in terms of, I guess, seeking control or mastery of something and then potentially doing that?
It's an ever-present kind of balance, which it's nice to be in that kind of present state of trying to control yet let go, and this push and pull, which you're kind of having to navigate, I guess.
Michael Vale is in the room, our course leader of the MA Theatre Design course at Wimbledon, and he says, is any accident successful?
No. No, it wasn't. And I just kind of, you just feel, you just get, you wait until you feel that, just that feeling of kind of just joy. You go, oh, you know, and it's just catching that. Sometimes I wouldn't feel that, and other people would, but you never really know. But you know what guides you, so then you can be content with it. But no, some of them would, you know, happen real quick. Others maybe not so quick. But no, they definitely weren't all okay.
Michael, do you want to come and say more about the accident that you were meaning?
Yes, please. I just want to say what I was kind of more trying to suggest to that, Will, is that because you don't know exactly how these things are going to fall, to me they all look great. It's just cheered me up, no end, I've got to say. I'm wondering how you begin to judge whether one is better than another, because what I thought was really interesting is that you kind of end up lacking a judgment whether one is successful or not, because they're all accidental. So almost, because I remember at the exhibition, almost anything that you put there was kind of successful. I'm wondering, is there any way, you know, do you judge the ones that you put on every day, or do you go, no, that's just today and that's it?
You mean judge them when I put them on where, or just kind of?
Yeah, no, and I mean any of those ones that you set up and they fall in a certain way, do you find that some are more successful than others, or do you go, no, that's successful because that's how that fell, and that was completely, you couldn't determine that?
Do you know, I do have favourites, but I wouldn't say that my favourites are necessarily the successful ones. So like, I really like the one where the ball goes down, hits the stick, it jumps and it lands. Yet that's one that's questionable in my mind, because it's a simple logic, or it's a kind of a wow thing. So I did a workshop with AUB students, the sculpture students, and for the workshop's sake, I slowed everything down and we did it in slow-mo, and then everything was a winner, because when you slow something down, you you get to see this kind of the physics slowing down, and it all becomes appealing. You know, it's like an over sugary cake. So it's just kind of, but where's the substance to it? So I guess that's one answer. The other answer might be that I'm Oh, I don't know what the other answer is. I just started questioning myself and forgot the
There,
other
there
answer.
might be something. Thanks, Michael. Thanks for coming in on that and clarifying.
Yeah, thanks,
And
Michael. Nice to
I
hear your
think
voice.
you can actually see Michael and I collaborating on a vernagram in Will's show on Will's website. But maybe that speaks into creating the conditions for something to happen. Like maybe it's not at all. You know, there's something about you setting up the structures or the holding space for these activities to happen necessarily, and maybe we're drawn into the falling of these things and the systematic of it, but actually it's the language and it's the logic and it's the system that is as much a part of it as what is happening with the black shapes. You know, and I quite like that thinking in terms of, you know, like you mentioned, thinking through workshop spaces and studio spaces. You know, what are these kind of systems or ways of making that facilitate these kind of wonderful explorations of materiality, logic, and, you know, that kind of language of making and things. So I wonder, I don't know whether you can speak into that in terms of maybe that's why one's not successful more than the other one. What is successful is the system that we're operating within.
Yeah, maybe it's an intrinsic energy that the process that gives like an energy, a backdrop to it. So each one, I think it's something about experiment. So an experiment can't fail. It can just kind of give you like an outcome. Well, no, that's not true. Experiments can fail, but I think, yeah, giving it it's all very free. Like in a way, it's the beginnings of lots of other things. So every little sketch is a potential. Well, I just said it there. It's like a sketch, isn't it? So which is like a beginning to something. So maybe it's the unspoken there, that it's just, yeah, it's a sketch. And also in mass as well, it becomes that one of many. So you read it in situ with the others.
There was a comment on Nigel Little, who's ours, a sound tech and digital lab tech at Wimbledon. He was like, I was happy to hear you mention musicality of the vernograms, because I have always wanted to add musical elements to your pieces. And actually, funny enough, I got an email from Ewan from Foster and Hayes just this morning, wanting to share this with his students, because he's working with them in terms of creating soundscapes and performance of sound. And they're wonderful one when they click, you know, a bit like a xylophone, that kind of musicality of the shapes as well. Anyway, just to say, there seems like there could be a nice little collaboration brewing there.
That sounds nice. Come on, Nigel, let's do it.
And Jane also picks up on that. She says the sounds, the simplicity is often far more compelling than complexity, which is lovely, actually. That's a great statement. Thanks, Jane. And the sounds with some are very satisfying, and you see more or something different each time you watch them. And also the different types of sounds, like you know, you kept in the sound of the show in the background, and that adds to it as well. But yeah, I just wanted to say thanks, Will. I think we've gone a little bit over time, so thanks for staying.
That's all right. What I might
us.
do is I'm aware that I there wasn't time to show everything. Maybe I'll put some of my the overall video. So I made a little video for educational sake, actually. So it emphasises the educational part, but it shows a little bit about, like, there's an interactive wall where the images got thrown. Anyway, maybe I'll put that on my Instagram page and people can have a look.
That would be great, and we can also link that on our blog as well. Just wanted to say thanks, Will. I know you put a lot of, that was a lot of time just reflecting and going through all those images. So we really appreciate your time and your effort and your presence with us today.
Pleasure. Nice to talk through it.
Yeah, great. It's just, it's lots of food for thought, really. And a big shout out to Claire Mitten. Thank you so much for joining us today and coming in on our chat. And we look forward to working with Claire more as we go. And yeah, thanks for Epic Win as well. I think Claire did an amazing job, and Will, that was an amazing show for the archive. So thank you for joining us. We'll call it an end there.